Hi, this is Ramya Ravindran and welcome back to my channel Infinity for UPSC. So today we are going to cover the 7th chapter, and that is Ashoka, the emperor who gave up war. This is the timeline that we had seen so far. Vedic culture 3500 years ago, Megalithic, later Vedic and system of Janapadas 3000 years ago. Mahajanapadas, it began 2500 years ago. Then Buddhism, Jainism and Upanishads, all these existed in the 6th century BC. Now this NCERT chapter begins with the lion capital. So the lions that we see on our notes and coins, this was carved in stone and placed on top of a massive stone pillar. So there is a stone pillar beneath this structure, and on top of that structure, this structure has been placed. So such questions have also been asked in your MCQs, that whether a particular structure is an individual structure or part of another structure. So this is part of another structure. This is not an individual structure. Now this is placed at Sarnath. We have already seen about Sarnath. It was a place where Buddha gave his first teaching. So Sarnath, which is near Varanasi, is the place where he taught for the first time. The rock pillar beneath this structure, that pillar has got inscriptions inscribed on top of that. And who asked that inscriptions to be inscribed? Ashoka instructed his men to inscribe on this pillar. And several such pillars and rock surfaces exist where we have got inscriptions. Mauryan Empire. So Ashoka, this ruler, he belongs to the Mauryan Empire, and we will see how this Mauryan Empire was founded. So it was not founded by Ashoka, it was founded by his grandfather, who was Chandragupta Maurya, and it was founded 2300 years ago, that is around 300 BC. Now this Chandragupta Maurya, he was supported by a person called as Chanakya or Kautilya. And with the advice of Chanakya, they could build such a big empire. So Chanakya had a big role to play in building this empire. Many of Chanakya's ideas were written down in a book called as Arthashastra. So this is very important. Chanakya had written a book called as Arthashastra. So Arthashastra, Chanakya. Remember this thing. The Mauryas were a dynasty with three important rulers: Chandragupta, his son Bindusara, and Bindusara's son Ashoka. So when it comes to Mauryan Empire, you will have to remember these three personalities: Chandragupta, Bindusara and Ashoka. And what is the meaning of empire and dynasty? It is given here. A very big kingdom is an empire, and dynasty means where members of the same family become rulers one after another. So this is dynasty. So what is to be remembered here? This empire was founded about 2300 years ago. Chanakya, Arthashastra, and these three personalities are important when it comes to Mauryan Empire. Now this map is very important for a history optional student, so you should be able to redraw this entire figure as it is, and other students, you will have to remember these places and the respective present location. Now there are two types of places given here. One is with red dots and another with black dots. So red dots mean inscriptions were found in this place, and black dots means these were the important cities of Mauryan Empire. So I will start with the red dots. Kandahar, Afghanistan; Lampaka, Afghanistan; Shahbazgarhi, Pakistan; Mansehra, Pakistan; Kalsi, Uttarakhand; Meerut, Uttar Pradesh; Bahapur, Delhi; Topra, Haryana. Then here Lumbini, Nepal; Rampurva, Bihar; Lauria Araraj, Bihar. Then Sarnath, Kaushambi and Allahabad, all these three belong to Uttar Pradesh. And Allahabad, now it is called as Prayagraj. Then Gujjar, Roopnath, Sanchi and Panguraria, all four belong to Madhya Pradesh. So Gujjar, Roopnath, Sanchi and Panguraria. Then coming to east coast, Dhauli, Odisha; Jaugada, Odisha. So these two belong to Odisha, Dhauli and Jaugada. Then coming to south, Yeragudi, this is in Andhra Pradesh; Brahmagiri, Maski and Sanati, these three belong to Karnataka. So Brahmagiri, Maski and Sanati in Karnataka. Sopara in Maharashtra, Girnar, this is in Gujarat. So we have seen all the places and the present day locations. Actually, you are supposed to find out all the present day locations of these places, but I have found that for you, so you just have to by heart it. Then three important cities are also given here. One is Takshila, then Patliputra, Ujjain. Takshila, this is in Pakistan. Patliputra is the present day Patna, which belongs to Bihar. Ujjain, this is in Madhya Pradesh. The Mauryan Empire. Now this empire was so huge that they had cities, they had villages, and they had regions where there were forests. So all these different varieties of land existed in this empire, and different kind of people used to stay in these regions. Like merchants, officials and craftspersons, they used to live in cities. Then farmers and herders, they used to live in villages. Then we have got central India where there were forests, and people living in this region, they used to gather the forest produce and they used to hunt animals for food. So different kind of people existed in this empire. Now these people who are living in different parts of the empire, they might be speaking different languages, having different kind of food and wearing different kind of clothes. Now when it comes to cities, we have seen three cities in the map. One is Patliputra, second Takshila and third Ujjain. So what is the speciality of these cities? Now Takshila, which is in Pakistan, it is a gateway to the northwest and also to the Central Asia. So if you want to go to northwest or to Central Asia, then you will have to go to Takshila first, and from there you will have to go to northwest or to Central Asia. Now when it comes to Ujjain, we have already seen that this is in Madhya Pradesh. That means this is a central point between North India and South India. Then when it comes to Patliputra, this is the capital of the Mauryan Empire. So Patliputra, capital, Takshila, gateway to northwest and to Central Asia, Ujjain, connecting point between North India and South India. So these are the specialties of these three cities. How are empires different from kingdoms? Now we have already seen that a very big kingdom is called as an empire. So if it is very huge, you need to protect it with big armies. So big armies mean you need more resources. And if you need more resources, that means you need more taxes and you need more officials to collect those taxes. So this is the difference between empire and kingdom in terms of revenue aspect. Ruling the empire. We have already seen the difference when it comes to the revenue aspect. Now we will see how to rule an empire. As the empire was so large, different parts were ruled differently. We had already seen that cities, villages and forest regions existed in this empire. So that means these regions will have different culture, and hence these regions must be ruled in a different manner and allowing them to follow their local customs and local traditions. Now this region Patliputra, which is the capital of this empire, this was under the direct control of the emperor. Now the other areas, those were divided into provinces. The way we divide India into different states now, during those days the empire was divided into different provinces, and each province was under the control of a royal prince or some or the other family member of the royal emperor. So those people, they used to rule such provinces. And each province had a capital of its own. So Takshila and Ujjain, these are provincial capitals, and Patliputra, which we had seen already, this is the capital of the entire empire. So the royal princes, they were often sent as governors. So governor is the term which is associated with the ruler of the province. Now when it comes to taxation, officials were appointed to collect taxes, and taxes were collected from farmers, herders, craftspersons and traders. That means everybody. And these officials, they also had the right to punish the people who disobeyed the ruler's orders. So if you get this statement which says officials also had the right to punish the people, it is a correct statement. Okay, officials indeed had the right to punish the people. Now apart from these officials, we also had messengers, and these messengers went to and fro carrying the messages. Then we had spies, and these spies kept a watch on the officials. And all these people, that is the officials, the messengers and the spies, they were supervised by the emperor with the help of the members of the royal family and the senior ministers. Now the vast areas between these centers, which were not under their control, in such regions they tried to control the roads and the rivers. Why? So that these can be used for the purpose of transportation, and also these were used as a source of tax and tribute. Example, Arthashastra tells us that Northwest was important for blankets and South India for its gold and precious stones. So these were collected as tribute. Now what is the difference between tax and tribute? Tax is something which is paid on a regular basis, but tribute is collected as and when it is possible, and it is given more or less willingly. Now if it is given less willingly, that means we can term this as a bribe. It is not a tribute but a bribe. There were also the forested regions, and people living in these areas were more or less independent. Now, throughout the history, these people were always independent till the time the Europeans entered India. So, when Britishers entered India, they forced out these people from the forest and they forced them to live like other people. So, till then, they were more or less independent. But these forest people, they were expected to provide elephants, timber, honey, and wax to Mauryan officials. Now, if these things are not going to emperor but to the Mauryan officials, that means these were a source of bribe to these officials. So, what have we learned about ruling the empire? Different parts were ruled differently. Patliputra was the capital, and places like Takshila and Ujjain, these were the provincial capitals. And provinces, these were ruled by the royal princes. They were sent as governors, and this place, that is the capital, was under the direct control of the emperor. Then we have got various officials. These people used to collect taxes and they also had the right to punish. Then we had messengers, we had spies, and emperor supervised all these people. Now the vast areas between these centers which were not under their control, in such regions they tried to control the roads and the rivers. Northwest was important for blankets, South India for gold and precious stones. And what is the difference between tax and tribute? Tribute is not like taxes, they are not paid regularly and they are collected as and when it is possible. It is given more or less willingly. Megasthenes about the emperor. So who is Megasthenes? Megasthenes was an ambassador who was sent to the court of Chandragupta by the Greek ruler of West Asia named Seleucus Nicator. Now every point in this statement is very important. Megasthenes, he was an ambassador. He was sent to the court of Chandragupta by the Greek ruler Seleucus Nicator. Now what has Megasthenes wrote about the emperor? The occasions on which emperor appears in public are celebrated with grand royal procession. He is carried in a golden palanquin. His guards ride elephants decorated with gold and silver. They also carry trees in which live birds, including a flock of trained parrots. The king is normally surrounded by armed women. Note this point. The king is surrounded by armed women and not men. He is afraid that someone may try to kill him, and that is the reason special servants taste his food, and he never sleeps in the same bedroom for 2 consecutive nights. Then he has also written about the capital city, that is the Patliputra. It is a large and a beautiful city. It is surrounded by a massive wall. That is, Patliputra was fortified. It has 570 towers and 64 gates. The houses of 2 and 3 stories are built with wood and mud brick. So 2 and 3 story houses were there. Now this point is very important. The king's palace was made of wood. And that is the reason this palace has not at all survived, because it was totally destroyed by fire. Then it is surrounded with gardens and enclosures for keeping birds. So what all are important here? Megasthenes, ambassador sent to Chandragupta's court by a Greek ruler Seleucus Nicator. He has written about the emperor and he has also written about Patliputra. About emperor, what all are important? Grand royal procession, golden palanquin, elephants decorated with gold and silver, guards carry trees, trained parrots, surrounded by armed women. His food is tasted by special servants. He never sleeps in the same bedroom for 2 consecutive nights. Patliputra, this city is fortified. It has got 570 towers and 64 gates, and king's palace is made of wood. Now we will see why an entire chapter is dedicated to one particular king, that is Ashoka. He was the first ruler who tried to take his messages to the people through inscriptions. So this is first speciality. He took messages to people. Most of his inscriptions were in Prakrit and were written in Brahmi script. See, Ashoka has used more than one language and more than one script, but most of the inscriptions were in Prakrit and in Brahmi script. Ashoka's war in Kalinga. So whenever we remember about Ashoka, the first thing that comes to our mind is Kalinga. So Kalinga, this is an ancient name of coastal Orissa. So Kalinga is in Orissa. Ashoka fought a war to conquer Kalinga, but he was so horrified that he decided that he will not fight any more wars. And he is the only king in the history of the world who gave up conquest after winning a war. So this is very important. If you get this statement, do not think that this is a wrong statement, because this is a very extreme statement. This is a correct statement. He is the only king in the history of the world. So this is correct. And even this statement is little extreme, but it is a correct statement. He was the first ruler who took his messages to people through inscriptions. So take a note of this statement and this statement. Ashoka's inscription describing the Kalinga War. So this is what he has written about Kalinga War. 8 years after becoming king, I conquered Kalinga. About 1.5 lakh people were captured and more than 1 lakh people were killed. So note all these figures. 8 years after he became king, he conquered Kalinga. This filled me with sorrow. Now what was more painful to him? Brahmins and monks also died. That is, the people who are on the spiritual path, they also died. And the people who were very kind to their relatives, friends, slaves, servants, they also die, or they have lost some of the other loved ones. So that means even these people are hurt. So that is the reason he was very sad, and he decided that he will observe Dhamma and he will teach others about it. And he believed that winning people through Dhamma is much better than conquering them through force. And he decided that he will inscribe this message for the future so that his son and his grandson, they will not think about war. So this was the purpose of inscribing this message. So what is to be taken from this slide? 8 years after Ashoka became king, Kalinga was conquered. What was Ashoka's Dhamma? Ashoka's Dhamma was not a religion because it did not involve worship of God or performance of a sacrifice. Very important statement. He felt that just as father tries to teach his children, even he is supposed to teach his subjects. Ashoka was also inspired by the teachings of Buddha. That means Ashoka's Dhamma was also influenced by the teachings of Buddha. There were a number of problems that troubled him, like people in the empire followed different religions, animals were sacrificed, slaves and servants, they were ill-treated, there were quarrels between families and amongst neighbors, and Ashoka felt that it was his duty to solve all these problems. And that is the reason he had even appointed officials, and those officials, they were known as Dhamma Mahamata. Now this term is very important. Dhamma Mahamata means the officials who were appointed to teach about Dhamma, and they used to travel from place to place teaching people. So note this term, Dhamma Mahamata. So what is to be taken from this slide? Dhamma, this is not a religion. It did not involve worship of God or performance of sacrifice, and this term is important, Dhamma Mahamata. Besides, Ashoka got his messages inscribed on rocks and pillars, instructing his officials to read his messages. So these messages were read out to all those people who could not read it themselves. So these were the duties of such officials. Ashoka also sent messengers to different places like Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka. So all these places become important: Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka. He also built roads, wells and rest houses, and he arranged for medical treatment for both humans as well as animals. So these two are important, the places Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka, and medical treatment was arranged for both human beings and animals. Ashoka's messages to his subjects. So this is what he had to say. People perform a variety of rituals when they fall ill, when their children get married, when their children are born, or when they go on a journey. But these rituals are not useful. Instead, people should observe other practices which would be more fruitful. These are being gentle with slaves and servants, respecting one's elders, treating everybody with compassion, giving gifts to Brahmins and monks, and he also said that it is wrong to praise one's own religion or criticize another's religion, because he believed that if you criticize another's religion, you are actually harming your own religion. So these are the messages that he gave to his subjects. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru about Ashoka. So he said that Ashoka's edicts or his instructions still speaks to us in a language which we can understand. That means we can still relate to the messages which were inscribed, and we can still learn much from them. So if you get a statement in your MCQ which says that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has mentioned about Ashoka and his edicts, it is a correct statement. So take a note of this. The Rampurva Bull. Now this finely polished stone sculpture, this was part of a Mauryan pillar which was found in Rampurva in Bihar. Now this is found in Rashtrapati Bhavan. So what is to be noted here? This sculpture, this is not an individual sculpture, it is part of another sculpture. It is placed on top of a pillar and it is a stone sculpture. And this place Rampurva, it is in Bihar. That means a Mauryan pillar has been found in Rampurva, Bihar. Brahmi script. This is the example of Brahmi script. And the statement says that most modern Indian scripts have been developed from Brahmi script over hundreds of years. So you can see that Hindi, Bengali, Malayalam and Tamil, all these were developed from the Brahmi script. So if you get a statement which says that Bengali or Tamil or Malayalam, these were developed from Brahmi script, it is a correct statement. So Brahmi, Hindi, Bengali, Malayalam, Tamil, all these are similar. Looking ahead, the Mauryan Empire collapsed about 2200 years ago. In the beginning of this chapter, we had seen that this empire was set up about 2300 years ago. That means this empire lasted for 100 years. 2300 years ago to 2200 years ago. And in the place of this Mauryan Empire, several new kingdoms were formed. Example, in northwest and in parts of North India, we had Indo-Greeks. So northwest and parts of North India were ruled by Indo-Greeks, very important statement. So if you get a statement which says that Indo-Greeks ruled the central part of India, that is a wrong statement because they ruled northwest and North India, parts of North India, and they ruled for about 100 years. Then they were followed by the Central Asian people known as Shakas. So Shakas, from where did they come? They had come from Central Asia. So Shakas are Central Asian people, very important. And they ruled northwest, north and western India. So Shakas, northwest, north and western India, and they lasted for about 500 years till the Shakas were defeated by the Gupta kings. So again, this is an important statement. Shakas were defeated by Gupta kings. The last of the Shakas, they were defeated by the Gupta kings. Then these Shakas, they were followed by Kushanas. So what is the order? Indo-Greeks, Shakas and Kushanas. And the last of the Shakas, they were defeated by the Gupta kings. Now you might think that how is it possible that after Shakas, Kushanas came? So this means when the initial Shakas were defeated, they were replaced by Kushanas, and the final Shakas or the remaining Shakas were defeated by Gupta kings. So every single statement and every single point given in the slide is very important. After Mauryas came Indo-Greeks, and Indo-Greeks, they ruled northwest and parts of North India and for about 100 years. And after Indo-Greeks, the Shakas entered. The Shakas were the Central Asian people. They ruled northwest, north and western India for about 500 years, and the last of the Shakas were defeated by Gupta kings, and Shakas were followed by Kushanas. So this is the order: Indo-Greeks, Shakas and Kushanas. Then in north and in parts of central India, Pushyamitra Shunga set up a kingdom. And who was this person? He was the general of Mauryas. Very important statement. Pushyamitra Shunga was the general of Mauryas, and he had set up kingdom in north and in parts of central India. Then these Shungas, they were followed by another dynasty called as Kanvas. So Pushyamitra Shunga, then Kanvas. And after Kanvas, we had some other families. Then the Gupta Empire was set up about 1700 years ago. So what is the order here? Shungas, Kanvas, some families, then Gupta Empire. Then when it comes to Western India, we have got Shakas. So these Shakas, they had fought several battles with Satavahanas. Okay, and these Satavahanas, they also ruled the Western India and some parts of Central India. So Shakas, they ruled Western India. Satavahanas, they ruled Western and parts of Central India. All these points are very important. Okay, multiple questions have been asked from these things. The Satvahana kingdom, which was established about 2100 years ago, lasted for about 400 years. So Satvahanas, they ruled for about 400 years. And immediately after that, that is 1700 years ago, Vakatakas, they became powerful in central and western India. So what is the order here? Shakas, Satavahanas and Vakatakas. Shakas, they ruled western India, Satavahanas western and central India, and Vakatakas central and western India. Now when it comes to South India, we have got Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Pallavas and Chalukyas. So all these kingdoms, they ruled South India. Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Pallavas and Chalukyas. These three, the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas, they ruled between 2200 and 1800 years ago, and about 1500 years ago, Pallavas and Chalukyas ruled. After Mauryas, when all these new kingdoms were set up, we could see some other changes as well. Example, the spread of agriculture and the growth in towns and trade. So when trade flourished, traders explored different land routes and different sea routes. And sea routes to West Asia, East Africa and Southeast Asia, all these were opened up during this time. And apart from that, several temples and stupas were also built, books were written, and many scientific discoveries were also made during this time. So all these things happened simultaneously. So these are the coins of different kingdoms: Indo-Greek coin, Kushana coin, Shaka coin, and Satavahana coin. Now these were the important trade routes which were discovered. So Kushana's, the trade route was between the Aral Sea and the Caspian Sea. Then the rulers of Iran or Persia, their trade routes was spread across Europe, the Roman Empire, and in the Central Asia. So Persians had access to Central Asia, to Europe and to Roman Empire. Then when it comes to Roman emperors, they had access to West Asia, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea, Rome and this part of Europe. Then the Chinese rulers, they had access to China, Tibet and Southeast Asia. So they had land routes and sea routes, and this was covering the Southeast Asia and it also reached India. Now there is one important place which is specially highlighted in your NCERT, and that is Poduka. So Poduka, it is in South India and it was the Roman name for Arikamedu. So note this statement, very important. Poduka, it is in South India and it is a Roman name for Arikamedu. Elsewhere, before the Mauryan Empire was set up, that is about 2400 years ago, emperors in China began building the Great Wall. Now try to recollect when this Mauryan Empire was set up. It was set up about 2300 years ago. Now this Great Wall, it was built to protect the northern frontier of the empire from the pastoral people. Additions to the wall were made over a period of 2000 years because the frontiers of empire kept on shifting. The wall is about 6400 km long. Very important, 6400 km long, and it has got a road along the top. You can see this, it has got a road too. There are watchtowers all along at distances of about 100 to 200 meters. Now the map of China, we had already seen this in the 4th chapter. You can revise this, pause the slide and revise it once again. Then we will revise the map of Iran once again. It has got Caspian Sea to its north, Persian Gulf to its southwest. Then the countries sharing land boundary with Iran are Iraq, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Greece, we have got Ionian Sea to the west, Mediterranean Sea to the south and Aegean Sea to the east. Adjacent countries or the countries sharing land boundary are Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria and Turkey. Some important dates. So the beginning of Mauryan Empire more than 2300 years ago, and the collapse of the empire about 2200 years ago. So this is 2300 years ago and this is 2200 years ago. So approximately they ruled for about 100 years. Now let us revise this entire chapter once again. So this is the timeline. Vedic period, it began about 3500 years ago. Then the megalithic culture, the later Vedic period, and the system of Janapadas, all these began 3000 years ago. The system of Mahajanapadas, this began 2500 years ago. Buddhism, Jainism and Upanishads, all these were developed during the 6th century BC. The lion capital, this is carved in stone and it is placed on a stone pillar at Sarnath. Sarnath was the place where Buddha gave his first teaching. Mauryan Empire, this was founded by Chandragupta Maurya about 2300 years ago, and Chandragupta Maurya, he was supported by Chanakya or Kautilya. Chanakya has written a book called as Arthashastra. The three important rulers of Mauryan Empire are Chandragupta, his son Bindusara and Bindusara's son Ashoka. Then all these places which are marked in red, we could find inscriptions from these places. So what are these places? Kandahar, Lampaka, Shahbazgarhi, Mansehra, Kalsi, Meerut, Sarnath, Kaushambi, Allahabad, Bahapur, Topra, Lumbini, Rampurva and Lauria Araraj. Now you have to note these four places. These four places are not in India. Kandahar and Lampaka, these are in Afghanistan. Shahbazgarhi and Mansehra, these are in Pakistan. Then Kalsi in Uttarakhand. Then Meerut, Sarnath, Kaushambi and Prayagraj, these are in Uttar Pradesh. Bahapur in Delhi. Topra in Haryana, Lumbini in Nepal, then Rampurva and Lauria Araraj, these are in Bihar. Then Gujjar, Rupnath, Sanchi, Panguraria, Dholi, Jogada, Yeragudi, Brahmagiri, Maski, Sannati, Sopara and Girnath. So Gujjar, Rupnath, Sanchi and Panguraria, these four are in Madhya Pradesh. Dholi and Jogada, these are in Odisha. Yeragudi in Andhra Pradesh. Brahmagiri, Maski and Sannati, these three are in Karnataka. Sopara in Maharashtra and Girnar in Gujarat. Then they have also shown three important cities. Takshila, this is in Pakistan. Patliputra, this is in Bihar. And Ujjain, this is in Madhya Pradesh. Then we saw that Mauryan Empire had cities, villages and forested regions. Some important cities are Patliputra, Takshila and Ujjain. Patliputra is the capital of the Mauryan Empire and Takshila and Ujjain, these are the provincial capitals. And what are the specialities of these three cities? We have already seen that Patliputra is the capital of the empire. Takshila, this is the gateway to the northwest including Central Asia, and Ujjain, this lay on route between North India and South India. Then we saw the difference between the empires and the kingdoms. Emperors need more resources because they need to keep big armies in order to protect their kingdom, and they also need more officials to collect taxes. Ruling the empire. Since the empire was very large, different parts were ruled differently. The area around Patliputra, it was under the direct control of the emperor, and the remaining area was divided into provinces, and these provinces were ruled by royal princes. They were sent as governors to these provinces. And Takshila and Ujjain, these are provincial capitals. Then we also saw that in these provinces, local customs and local rules were followed. Then there were officials who were appointed to collect taxes. They also had the right to punish people. There were messengers who went to and fro, there were spies who kept a watch on the officials, and emperor supervised all these people. The vast areas between these centers which were not under their control, in such regions they tried to control the roads and rivers so that these can be used for transportation. And from these regions they also tried to collect tax as well as tribute. Arthashastra says that northwest was important for blankets and South India for gold and precious stones. The people living in forests, they were more or less independent, but they were expected to provide elephants, timber, honey and wax to the Mauryan officials. We had also seen the difference between tax and tribute. Tax is something which is paid on a regular basis, but tribute it is paid whenever possible and it is given more or less willingly. Then we saw what Megasthenes had written about the emperor and about the capital city, that is Patliputra. So Megasthenes, who was he? He was an ambassador who was sent to the court of Chandragupta by the Greek ruler of West Asia named Seleucus Nicator. So what has Megasthenes said about the emperor? His appearance in public is celebrated with grand royal processions. He is carried in a golden palanquin. His guards ride elephants decorated with gold and silver. Some of the guards carry trees on which birds sleep. There are trained parrots which circle the head of the emperor. He is surrounded by armed women. Special servants taste his food. Never sleeps in the same bedroom for 2 consecutive nights. About Patliputra, it is surrounded by a massive wall. It has got 570 towers and 64 gates. There are houses of 2 and 3 stories and the king's palace is made of wood. Ashoka is the first ruler who tried to take his message to the people through inscriptions, and most of his inscriptions were in Prakrit and in Brahmi script. Kalinga is the ancient name of coastal Orissa. Ashoka is the only king in the history of the world who gave up conquest after winning a war. Then these are written in the inscription about the Kalinga war. It was fought 8 years after he became king. About 1.5 lakh people were captured, more than 1 lakh people were killed, and he was very sad that Brahmins, monks and people who are very kind, they also died. So he decided to observe Dhamma and he also tried to spread this Dhamma. What was Ashoka's Dhamma? It was not a new religion. It did not involve worship of God or performance of sacrifice. It was just instructions given to his subjects. Then special officials called as Dhamma Mahamatas were appointed, who went from place to place teaching people about Dhamma. His messages were inscribed on rocks and pillars. Officials were appointed to read his messages. He also sent messengers to Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka. Then medical treatment was arranged for human beings as well as animals. Then this was the message to his subjects. He said, instead of performing rituals, you are supposed to be gentle with slaves and servants, respect one's elders, treat everybody with compassion, give gifts to Brahmins and monks, and it is wrong to praise one's own religion or criticize another's religion. Then we also saw that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru has mentioned about Ashoka and his edicts. He said that Ashoka's edicts still speaks to us in a language which we can understand and we can still learn from them. This bull, it was made of stone. It was part of a Mauryan pillar. It was found in Rampurva in Bihar. Then we also saw that Hindi, Bengali, Malayalam and Tamil, all these are developed from early Brahmi script. Then after the collapse of Mauryan Empire, that is about 2200 years ago, several new kingdoms rose. In northwest and in parts of North India, we have got Indo-Greeks and they ruled for about 100 years. And after Indo-Greeks, we have got Shakas and these are Central Asian people. Shakas ruled northwest, north and western India and they ruled for about 500 years. They were finally defeated by Guptas and Shakas were followed by Kushanas. So the order is Indo-Greeks, Shakas and Kushanas. And this is mostly in northwest and north. Then in north and in parts of central India, a general of Mauryas named Pushyamitra Shunga, he set up his kingdom and after Shungas came Kanvas and after that several other families came and finally Guptas came. So the order is Shunga, Kanva and Guptas. Then coming to western India, we have got Shakas and they ruled over western India and these Shakas they often fought with Satavahanas and these Satavahanas they ruled over western and parts of central India and these Satavahanas they lasted for about 400 years. Then after that we have got Vakatakas. So these Vakatakas they ruled in central and western India. So Shakas, Satavahanas and Vakatakas. Then coming to South India, we have got Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, then Pallavas and Chalukyas. Then we also saw that with the development of agriculture and trade, new land routes and new sea routes were opened up and many new temples and stupas were constructed, books were written and scientific discoveries were made during this time. These are the coins of each kingdom. Then we saw that Kushanas had access to the region between Caspian Sea and the Aral Sea. The Persians they had access to Central Asia, to Roman Empire and to Europe. And the Romans they had access to Western Asia, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea and Europe. And here we can see that Kushanas also had access to Asia or India. Then coming to China, they had access to China, Tibet and sea route access to Southeast Asia and up to India. Then we also saw that Poduka, which is in South India, it was the Roman name for Arikamedu. Then we also saw about the Great Wall. This was built before the Mauryan Empire was set up. That is about 2400 years ago. Because Mauryan Empire was set up about 2300 years ago. Now this Great Wall, it was built to protect the northern frontier from the pastoral people. It was about 6400 km long. It has got a road along the top and it has also got watchtowers all along at distances about 100 to 200 meters. So within a gap of 100 to 200 meters, we have watchtowers. Now this is a map of China. You can pause it and read it. We have actually covered it several times, so I am not repeating it once again. Now we will revise Iran once again. To its north, we have got Caspian Sea. To its southwest, we have got Persian Gulf. The countries sharing land boundary with Iran are Iraq, Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Greece, we have got Ionian Sea to the west, Aegean Sea to the east and Mediterranean Sea to the south. Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria and Turkey are the countries sharing land boundary with Greece. Important dates: beginning of the Mauryan Empire 2300 years ago and collapse 2200 years ago. So that's all from my side. Please like, share and subscribe this channel and I'll be back with the next video very soon. Thank you so much.